Hey, Apple!
What? For those of you that have a fear of clowns, after this video, you're going to hate them even more. This Hey Apple slideshow that I got tagged in tells a very disturbing story. The first photo shows a heavy-set man dressed in a clown costume, the second photo a bunch of young men, and the third photo the same exact clown's mugshot, as well as his house being torn apart. The man hiding under all of this makeup is John Wayne Gacy, a very famous American serial killer. John Wayne Gacy was often nicknamed the Killer Clown or Pogo the Clown, and between the years of 1972 to 1978, John Wayne Gacy took the lives of at least 33 young men. Many of these young men were hidden in his house underneath the floorboards, where he would frequently throw parties with people from around the neighborhood. After being caught, John Wayne Gacy was sentenced to be removed from the gene pool, if you catch my drift, via injections. His house has been torn down and since replaced with a different house, and even though he's no longer here, the horror of his actions live on forever.
He found this under his house.
Boiled alcohol.
So let me get this straight. You find a room full of water below your house, you enter this room through a hole, and start swimming around in the stagnant water. You, my friend, are way braver than I am. In the clip that you guys just watched, posted to TikTok, this guy finds a room below his house completely filled with water. Now, a lot of people in the comments here thought that this was a septic tank. However, I'm going to have to disagree. This is more than likely something known as a cistern. Cisterns are basically storage tanks for water. They can either be on the outside of the house or they can be below the house. Cisterns are typically found in older houses, and they're usually in places where there's not a lot of water readily available. Nowadays, cisterns are really not used very often. It's really not a good idea to swim in an old cistern because they're not clean. Gases can build up in here, dangerous bacteria, so usually a good practice not to go inside. I'm sure this guy was fine afterwards, but seriously, if you guys find an old cistern, please don't swim in it.
He found this under his house.
Boiled alcohol.
So let me get this straight. You find a room full of water below your house, you enter this room through a hole, and start swimming around in the stagnant water. You, my friend, are way braver than I am. In the clip that you guys just watched, posted to TikTok, this guy finds a room below his house completely filled with water. Now, a lot of people in the comments here thought that this was a septic tank. However, I'm going to have to disagree. This is more than likely something known as a cistern. Cisterns are basically storage tanks for water. They can either be on the outside of the house or they can be below the house. Cisterns are typically found in older houses, and they're usually in places where there's not a lot of water readily available. Nowadays, cisterns are really not used very often. It's really not a good idea to swim in an old cistern because they're not clean. Gases can build up in here, dangerous bacteria, so usually a good practice not to go inside. I'm sure this guy was fine afterwards, but seriously, if you guys find an old cistern, please don't swim in it.
Would you do this, dear, for $1 million?
This is one of the rare times that I'm going to say yes, I would do this for $1 million.
It's time for
Of AIDS. In case any of you guys thought that clip was real, I want to go on the record and say, no, I would not do that for $1 million. Well, you're just a clever little guy, aren't you, the person that made this? Taking what I say out of context like I'm some sort of politician. Well, I got news for you, buddy. I will not stand for it anymore. On top of this, I would be really curious to see what your search history is to find a cartoon like this. This is very sus. I also want to clear another thing up. This right here is not me. Apparently, these posts right here are gaining a lot of traction on the IdkSterling subreddit, saying that I'm in New York City. I'm not really sure what's going on in this image, but again, I promise you that it's not me. Do we look the same? I don't think so. And of course, in positive news from the subreddit, we have some dope art right here as myself as an anime character, and myself as GigaChad, which will definitely give me nightmares. So that's all the drama that's been going on lately. Just wanted to update you guys.
never put a brick in a washing machine.
As ridiculous as this sounds, this is actually something that you should pay attention to. This TikTok video that I was tagged in shows a washer spinning rapidly during its final cycle and somebody throwing a brick inside of this already moving washing machine. This causes the washing machine to completely fall apart, the spinning portion flies out, and then starts jumping around very erratically. Now, the reason that this happens has everything to do with something known as centrifugal force. This dictates that on a circle, the furthest point outside is going to be moving the fastest and have the most amount of force applied to it going outwards. This is the same exact principle that causes people to fly off of these merry-go-rounds, especially when they do dumb things like this, putting motorcycles on the end and getting it extremely fast. So while you might not throw a brick into the washing machine, any heavy object by itself in there has the potential to cause this to happen. This is an extremely underestimated powerful force, so don't mess around with it.
Imagine if the glass wasn't there.
Ho ho ho!
Call me crazy, but I'm gonna say it, let's not tease chimpanzees. Here in this clip, this person is mocking a chimpanzee by banging on the glass at a zoo enclosure. This chimpanzee is obviously upset, acting very aggressively towards this person, and I don't think that they realize what would happen if there wasn't glass between them. Let's play ball for a second and act like Harry Potter was there and he made the glass disappear. Well, let's start with the muscularity here. This is what a chimpanzee looks like when it doesn't have fur obscuring its muscles. On average, chimpanzees are 1.35 times stronger than the average human, they have way better leverage because of the length of their limbs, and they're much faster. Chimps are also around 100 times more aggressive than humans, meaning if you were to enter their enclosure, they're far more likely to attack you than you are them. They also have very powerful jaws that they're not afraid to use, and at the end of the day, you, my friend, would be absolutely cooked. And if you don't believe me, just look up some videos of animals entering chimpanzees' enclosures and see what happens to them.
Never touch your eye after surgery.
Ho ho!
This guy's video is far more interesting than mine's going to be, so I'd recommend checking it out, but this still is a very interesting topic that I'd like to touch on. In this video, this guy is playing the role of a patient as well as a medical professional and talking about why patients want to rub their eyes after surgery and why you shouldn't do that after you wake up. And the entire reason that they don't let you rub your eyes after you wake up from surgery and why you shouldn't do this is because of something known as a corneal abrasion. Corneal abrasions are scratches on the cornea, which is the protective layer across your eye. They can also be extremely painful and cause redness, tearing, sensitivity to light, and just an overall feeling of irritability like something's in your eye and you can't quite get it out. And one of the reasons why it's a lot more common to get this after surgery is because when you wake up from anesthesia, you're groggy, don't have a good reaction time, and you may accidentally stick your finger in your eye scratching it. Overall, it's not the worst thing in the world to happen to you because typically smaller abrasions will heal between 24 to 48 hours later, but still, you don't want to do it because it's very uncomfortable during that time period.
The apple.
What? Many of you have probably seen this photo before and wondered what happened after it was taken, so I'm going to give you guys that story. This slideshow starts off with a photo of a black bear, a photo of a researcher going down a cave, and a very famous photo of one of these researchers coming face to face with a black bear that they thought was hibernating. This famous photo was taken in Utah, and the entire reason that these researchers are going into this cave with a black bear is because they're supposed to change the radio collar that the black bear is wearing. Once the batteries run out on these radio collars, researchers have to change them. The researcher here, Wes Anderson, was equipped with a tranquilizer stick that was around 6 feet long so they would be safe, so even if the bear was awake, which it was, they were able to tranquilize it. In this case, the bear kept crawling towards them, forcing the researcher and photographer to go back the other way. After the bear exited the cave, the tranquilizer kicked in, and they changed the batteries. They then managed to drag the 350-pound bear back into the cave before it woke up, and this is the entire story.